All right, remote calculus, welcome to your chapter 3 quiz number 2 review video on 1 through 18. All of them you are to find the derivative of each function. All right, so with that one, here is number 1. F of x is equal to negative 1/3 x to the third e to the 4x. This is the product rule here. Treat that as the first function. Treat this as kind of the second. So it's derivative of the first function. So I'm going to put the negative 1/3 out here. Then I'm going to take the derivative of x to the third. Derivative of x to the third is 3x squared. This is derivative of the first function. Times the second plus the first, negative 1/3, x to the third, times the derivative of the second. So derivative of e to the 4x would be e to the 4x, and then I take the derivative of 4x, which is 4, okay? Then I clean this up. 3 times negative 1/3 is a negative x squared, e to the 4x, minus 4/3 x to the third, e to the 4x. All right? Number 2, we have another product rule. Let's call this the first function, that the second. Okay, so I take the derivative of the first function. Derivative of 4x squared is simply 8x, times the second function plus the first function, which is 4x squared, times derivative of the second. Derivative of any natural log of u would be 1 over u, so 1 over what I'm taking the natural log of. Then I need to take the derivative of what is I'm taking the natural log of. I need to take the derivative of that u, so I take the derivative of this denominator, which is 6x squared. All right, this does not need any cleanup. This times this divided by 2x to the third is 12x. That's how it's simplified. Please simplify it. Number 3, I really have a negative 2/3 cosine u. So I'm going to take out the negative 2/3. I'm going to take the derivative of cosine. That is negative sine u. Then I take the derivative of this angle, or this u, with respect to x. Derivative of that would be 6. Negative times a negative is a positive. 2/3 of 6 is 4. 4 sine 6x. Here's number 4. 4 tangent 3x squared. 4 tan u would be 4 secant squared u du dx. So it's going to be 4. Derivative of tangent is secant squared of my angle. Then I need to take the derivative of my angle with respect to x. When I do the chain rule, everything gets its derivative taken. Okay, 4 times 6x, 24x, secant squared of my angle. There we go. That's 1 through 4. Let's take a look at 5. Negative 2 secant u. All right, so the derivative of secant u is secant u tangent u, and then take the derivative of that u with respect to x. So here's what I'm going to do. Negative 2, derivative of secant is secant tangent of my angle. Then I take the derivative of my angle with respect to x, 4. That's how I get negative 8 secant 4x tangent 4x. Again, the derivative of any secant u would be secant u tangent u times the derivative of u with respect to x. Take a look at 6. Product rule again. Call that my first function. Derivative of the first function would be bring down the 2. 2/3 times 3. I'm sorry, bring down the 3. 2/3 times 3 is 2. 1 power less x squared sine of x squared. So derivative of my first function times the second, plus the first function times derivative of the second. Derivative of sine would be cosine of u. Take the derivative of u with respect to x. So cosine of x squared, take the derivative of x squared, which is 2x. Then simplify. All right, this times this. 4x to the fourth divided by 3. All right. 7, I just rewrote it. All right, so this is just f of x. I didn't take the derivative yet. Then it's just the power rule. Bring down the power 1 power less. Okay, negative 2 times negative 2 is 4. 1 power less is x to the negative third. Negative 1 times 4 is negative 4. 1 power less is x to the negative second. There we go. X to the negative third. 4x to the negative third would be 4 over x to the third. Minus 4x to the negative second would be minus 4 over x squared. Let's talk about number 8. Again, I am just rewriting negative 3 over x squared as negative 3x to the negative second. When I take its derivative, negative 2 times negative 3 is 6, x to the 1 power less. So 6 over x to the third. Everything else is the simple power rule. Bring down the power, 1 power less. 2 times 4 is 8, 8 over 5. All right, let's be good with that arithmetic. That is through number 8. Number 9 is when we got to do the quotient rule. Low, or the denominator, times d high, or times the derivative of the numerator, minus high, which is the numerator, d low, which is derivative of the denominator, all over the square of what's below, or all over the denominator square. That is the chain rule. So, low. Derivative of high would actually be 3 sine x. Derivative of cosine is negative sine. Negative times a negative 3 would be positive 3 sine x. Minus high, which is the numerator. D low, derivative of low, which is simply cosine x, all over sine x squared. Distribute, that is 3 sine squared x minus 2 cosine x. A negative times a negative would be a positive 3 cosine squared x. 3 sine squared x plus 3 cosine squared x. If you put those right together and factored out the 3, you would have 3 times sine squared plus cosine squared. That's the Pythagorean identity. That's 1. 3 times 1 is 3, minus 2 cosine x, all over sine squared x. All right, we do need to know when we have the Pythagorean identity in play. All right, application of the chain rule. This is like u to the third. If I took the derivative of u to the third, it would be 3u squared times du dx. So bring down the 3u, 1 power less squared. Then I take the derivative of this with respect to x. So 12x squared minus 10x. Do 3 times 12x squared minus 10x. Multiply it by that binomial that is being squared. All right, 11. Natural log u would be 1 over u times the derivative of u with respect to x. So 1 over what I'm taking the natural log of, then I take the derivative of what I was taking the natural log of. So 1 over this sine 2x squared, then I take the derivative of sine 2x squared, which would be cosine of 2x squared. And then don't forget, I need to take the derivative of 2x squared, which would be 4x. So I can write it as this, or cosine of the same angle over sine of the same angle is cotangent. Either or there. And we keep rolling. Number 12, we have natural log u again, 1 over u times the derivative of u with respect to x. So 1 over cosine 3x. Then I need to take the derivative of cosine 3x. Derivative of cosine would be negative sine of my angle. Then I need to take the derivative of my angle with respect to x. Derivative of this angle is 3. So again, take the derivative of natural log. So 1 over this. Then I need to take the derivative of this with respect to x. And the derivative of cosine is negative sine of my angle. I need to take the derivative of my angle. 2 different ways to write that. All right. 13, quotient rule, low. So the denominator times d high, derivative of the numerator, minus high, the numerator, times derivative of, so times d low, derivative of the denominator, all over the square of what's below. Distribute, combine like terms. That one shouldn't be that bad. Number 13. 14 got a product rule. Derivative of the first times the second plus the first times derivative of the second. Let's call that the first function. Second function. Derivative of the first is 8x times the second function plus the first. Derivative of the second would be negative sine 2x times derivative of 2x, which is 2. Combine like terms. Not combine like terms, distribute. Don't combine like terms. Think of something else. Distribute, simplify. All right. Strike that from the record. Let's talk about 15 here. 15 would be probably the product rule. So I'm going to call this 4x squared times 2x minus 3 to 1/2. So I take the derivative of the first times the second function. Derivative of the first is 8x times the second function, so just the square root of 2x minus 3, plus the first function times the derivative of the second, so I'm going to use this. So 1/2 u to the 1 power less, 1/2 u to the 1 power less, and I take the derivative of u with respect to x, which is 2. 1/2 of 2, cancel. 4x squared is up top. This to the negative 1/2 means it's over the square root of 2x minus 3. 16. 3 times u to the 1/2 is what we're looking at. Bring down 1/2 times 3 is 3/2. U to the 1 power less. And I take the derivative of this with respect to x, so 6x plus 5. Again, bring down the power, 1 power less, and I take the derivative of this with respect to x. Again, we talk about that u sometimes. If you have 3u to the 1/2, bring down the power, 3/2 u to the 1 power less, and then you need to take the derivative of that u with respect to x, and that u can be anything, something in terms of x. Now I did 3 times 6x plus 5, and divided by 2 and this root. All right, 17. 5 cotangent. 5 cotangent x. Cotangent is cosine over sine, so we're going to write it like that. Okay. Five cosine x over sine x, so low. Derivative of high would be negative 5 sine x minus high. 5 cosine x times derivative of low. Derivative of sine x is cosine x. All over the square of what's below. Negative 5 sine squared x minus 5 cosine squared x. Factor out the negative 5 they have in common. And look at that. You got sine squared x plus cosine again. Negative 5 times 1 is a negative 5 over sine squared, which is also negative 5 cosecant squared x. All right. Lastly, negative 8 cosecant x would be negative 8 over sine x. Low, d high, derivative of negative 8 is 0, minus high, d low, derivative of sine is cosine, all over the square of what's below. I mean, you could write that as 8 cotangent x cosecant x, or you can just leave it like that. All right, so watch this a few times. These are your answers for any question that I could possibly ask you on the 29th for that remote calculus quiz. This is Yak Math Video signing out.